A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I did a video where I was talking about if I could only recommend one eyeshadow palette from each indie brand, well, not each of them, but a bunch of them, which would I recommend? Now as I'm looking at this pile, are these even all indie brands? I think I'm sneaking in a ColourPop here, but it's only because ColourPop has so many palettes. So I want to be like, where do you start? Because there are so many palettes being released left, right, and center every week, let's be honest. And I just want to help out a little bit. If you are new to the scene, or if maybe you're not buying that much makeup, or you're not maybe watching that much like makeup content on YouTube either, where should you start if you want to dive into colorful makeup? So I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I think 16. If I could count, nobody knows. Different alternatives from 16 different brands that I think are a really good starter palette if you want to get into some makeup. These are not necessarily my personal favorite palette from the brand, because sometimes I love something that's like a little bit obscure, and I don't want to say like, oh, I'm like not like other makeup lovers, but sometimes I tend to love things that are a little bit out there. So I'm trying to find a good middle ground. Let's actually start with ColourPop, and I have this palette in the old packaging, and this is the Wine and Only palette. ColourPop did just recently re-release this palette in new packaging, and they did a clear cover instead so that it could be able to be sold at Target instead, because when you're selling things at drugstores in the US, they don't have testers, so they need a clear front. This is one of the best, if not the best quality eyeshadow palette that ColourPop has in their collection right now. So if you want to see, because we used to say ColourPop has great eyeshadow quality or okay eyeshadow quality. Right now, I think they have good eyeshadow quality or meh. But this is one of the great ones. One of the great ones, the titans from before. So definitely, if you have never tried ColourPop, or if you want to get a more affordable palette, get this one, because it is really, really good quality and still at the ColourPop like affordable price tag. Some of these brands I do have an affiliate code, and I will list all these palettes down below. If they're available through YouTube Shopping, I will have them pop up on the screen, and you can probably use my affiliate code Angelica at quite a bunch of these different brands. Always, if there's a way to put on a code when you're at checkout with a different brand, try my code Angelica, you might get a discount. And my code is affiliated, so if you do use it, I do earn a small commission. This is a palette that I initially picked out, and I was like, is this palette still available? Please say this palette is still available, because this is truly my favorite with the brand, and I think that this is the one that I would recommend if I can only recommend you one palette from this brand. And I knew it sold out, but Lethal Cosmetics did restock the Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this is the Earth Pressed Pigment palette. And I say as my shadow literally falls out in my lap. Why do you do this to me? I was just recommending you. I need an intermission. Hold. This is what my existence looks like right now. I need to go wash my hands, but look at how beautiful this shadow is though. But unfortunately it fell out. It got like a little bit of green to it. I still love this palette, but I had an accident. Hold. 3 hours later. My love for this palette is still strong. Let me get rid of some of that. I just pressed it back in. It's just a beautiful palette. It's an amazing palette. Maybe I bumped it, maybe I did something, I have no idea. I was able to press it in back together. I am not too worried about my palettes looking pristine. I don't mind if it looks like my palettes have been used, and this one has been used. This is a really fun color story, really incredible quality eyeshadows, and it doesn't hurt that it's a collab with Avatar: The Last Airbender either, and it is still available on the Lethal Cosmetics website. I did film this look. It should already be live on my channel. I will leave a link to that tutorial down below in case you're interested in seeing how I did this look right here. When it comes to Gourmande Girls, I would say this one. This is the Peach Perfect palette. This one was released, I think, last summer, and this is a beautiful palette. It goes from light to dark. There's a couple of neutrals in here. There's a couple of special shades when it comes to shimmers, and it also is one of those palettes that's like, you could go really bright with it, but you can also like be a little bit more, I don't want to say modest, but a little bit more neutral if you want to. It also gives you the opportunity to sample all the different formulas that Gourmande Girls has. So I definitely would recommend you to try this one. I also love the new palette, I think it's called Bitten. Really, really love that one as well. But that one has a darker and more mysterious and dramatic color story that might not be for everyone. I think this one is more of a safer bet if you just wanted to try out the brand. Okay, this is technically an indie brand, but I wanted to sneak this one in here because I do have so many palettes from the brand, and this is Natasha Denona. So this is the Yucca palette, and I love this color story. I love the versatility of this color story. I love that there is cream to powders, which I think the brand is kind of slow, like there's not gonna do that anymore. I'm not 100% sure. I think that that's the best formula that Natasha Denona has ever done, like the brand. It is an incredible formula that you can work on top of powders, under powders, on its own, doesn't crease on me. It's buildable. You can really build it up. I think it's beautiful. But if it's something that the brand is not going to do in the future, at least this palette does have it. I think this is a wonderful palette. It's one of my favorite palettes from, was this last year or the year before? I mean, not even sure, but oh my gosh, I think this is beautiful. And if you love a little bit more of colorful makeup and you don't want to order from an indie brand, you want to maybe order from Sephora. I don't know if this is still available at the Sephora, if I'm going to be honest though. We're going to have to look at that. I do think that this is the best and most interesting and most like innovative palette from the brand. There has been a change at the top when it comes to Nomad Cosmetics. I've always said that I think what is it called? Something, I actually have it here in front of me. I used it not too long ago, and this is the Fuji 5 Lakes. I used to say that this is my favorite palette from them. This is a beautiful palette, but actually my favorite palette from them now is America's Parks, because they did re-release this in an even better and improved formula, and I love this color story. And I would truly recommend this because, again, just as some of the other palettes, you can go neutral, you can go colorful, you can go muted or bright or dark or light, and I love this color story. I love that you can go yellow and brown, yellow or green, green and brown. You have a little bit of red down here. You have a silver. I just think this is beautiful, and I loved this palette before as well, but now I love it even more because they perfected the formula. So this is my new favorite palette from Nomad. I love it. I don't know how long they're keeping this. They just re-released it again. I don't know if it's limited edition. I don't know if they're keeping it around, but I love this one. When it comes to Adept Cosmetics, me and Adept Cosmetics have had a little bit of an on and off relationship. I have said for the longest time that I think Adept Cosmetics, I wish that they would pay as much attention to their mattes as they do to their shimmers, and my favorite palette from Adept Cosmetics is actually not available with the brand anymore. But then they released this palette. This is the Emo palette, and I think this palette is beautiful. Not only have they started to really perfect the matte formula, so you can tell they've spent a lot of time on that one as well, and the mattes here are really beautiful, pigmented, blendable, buildable, and also this one has an extra matte, which again for me makes a palette a little easier to work with. But all the shimmers are still those really interesting high intensity special shades from Adept Cosmetics, so you're not missing out and you're still getting the Adept Cosmetics shimmers, but the mattes are, according to me, some of the best that they've ever done. So I would say if you're going to start with Adept Cosmetics, I would say start with this one. I spent a lot of time going through my Bella Beauté bar palettes because I wasn't sure which one I wanted to recommend to you because they have so many great palettes. But when I started to think about it, I was like, how can you get the most bang for your buck? Because Bella Beauté bar is unfortunately not an affordable indie brand. They're a little bit more of a higher price tag, and hence then, because when I wanted to recommend something, I wanted to recommend something where you get as many shadows as possible for your money, where I still think that they are incredible in quality, but also in variation. So I decided on the Poison Garden. This one isn't one of their absolute biggest or most expensive palettes, but it is one where you get quite a lot of shades. There are palettes that are smaller than this one that has the same price tag, but I think with this one, again, you get those special shades. It is neutrals, it is colorful, you get just a bunch of variety, and I love this color story, especially if you're into grungy colors and you like the idea of having a couple of pops of color in here. This is the most beautiful, like you can see like an orangey yellow with almost like a purple to a green shift. It's a very interesting shade. Overall, I think this is an incredible palette. It is a little bit more on the pricey side. So is a couple of these other things as well. Natasha Denona, Adept Cosmetics. They have a little bit more of a expensive price tag, but I do think the quality of this one is beautiful. And this my favorite palette from them. I don't know if this is my personal favorite palette from them, but it's definitely my top 3 favorite. But I do think that you've never tried the brand. I definitely think that starting here is it's a good way to start. With Odins Eye, it was super easy. I am actually going to recommend my favorite palette from Odins Eye. I don't know if this is in stock right now, and I really hope they will restock it. If not, because I know it was out of stock for a bit. And that is the Stone and Rock palette. I think that this is, again, a beautiful palette. This is almost neutrals. This is, again, if you love bright colors, this is a neutral palette. If you love neutrals, this is a colorful palette. And I love that the balance that they have struck with that palette. You have a matte black, you have a matte white, so you can go really light or really dark. All of these mattes are really easy to blend together as well if you want to go lighter or darker. You have a multichrome in here, you have an iridescent shimmer in here. The undertones, the colors are really beautiful. There's some cool tones, there are warm tones. I love this palette. If you have never tried Odins Eye, definitely start with this one. As long as it is in stock. I hope it is, but I really like this one. As I'm filming this, Odins Eye is about to announce some new palettes as well. If I'm not totally mistaken, I think that when you're seeing this, they've already shown those palettes, and from those new palettes, my favorite is the spring one. When it comes to Unearthly Cosmetics, I think Unearthly Cosmetics has so many great palettes. So when I chose a palette, I did actually choose one of my favorites, but I also chose this palette because this palette is significantly more affordable in the grand scheme of things than some of their other palettes, because Unearthly Cosmetics has quite a big range in the price tags of their palettes depending on how many special shades are in there. And I think that if you're starting out with a brand, I think you don't need to go in and buy the most expensive palette they have. I think start with High Temp. This is a beautiful, again, if you don't love warm tones, you might not love this one. I honestly also think that there's one that's called like Smoky Witch. What is it called? Sorcerer's Smoke. Smoky Witch. Wow. The Sorcerer's Smoke one is a great one if you're more into neutrals, but it is a little bit more on the expensive side, and this one is a little bit more, again, affordable in the grand scheme of things, and the quality is beautiful. One row of more like mauve shades, one row of super spicy warm tones, beautiful quality. I would say that there's like a duochrome or 2 in here, and then just really high quality sparkly metallics, but you don't get those like super high intensity multichromes in here. But on the other side, you get a lower price tag on this one, and the mattes are incredible. Such a beautiful palette. And I do think if you want to start somewhere, I would never recommend anyone to start with the brand's most expensive palette, because when it comes to these brands that have like some more expensive ones and some more affordable ones, the thing that is making them more expensive are the special shades. And if you're like me, especially if you're like me, and if you're more a matte girly, definitely aim for something that's a little bit more on the affordable side, because it's still a great, amazing formula. It's just less of those like special shades. I, again, had to go into the Nomad Cosmetics website and see if they still have what I think is their best palette to date, and they do. This is the All Done Up palette. I think this one is on sale actually on the Nomad Cosmetics website. I don't know if they're getting rid of it or not. If you had been thinking about it, maybe now is the time. I do think you can stack a code on this one as well. And this one is just one of the most interesting neutral palettes I have in my collection. I'm not even big on neutrals, and I still think this is absolutely glorious. There are some metallics at the bottom. This is a green, like iridescent duochrome topper. Absolutely beautiful. Cool tone greens. There are cool tone, like more neutral browns. There is like a pink and then a warmer browns. There is like some more mustards, and then just a gray, white, black kind of a row. Just a really interesting palette when you can do the rows down and just have an easy look, but you can also mix and match in between the rows, which I have done, and it just creates the most amazing looks. Really like this one, and I like the size of this one. And I know Blend Bunny They're like trying different kinds of sizings, and I've really loved when they've done some more smaller palettes, because for me, I feel like that's when you really get to see the creativity show, where you can't just put everything in. And I love this palette. Like I said, I don't know if they're getting rid of it or not because it is on sale, but if you're interested, maybe check it out sooner rather than later. When it comes to Cosmic Beauty, I quite honestly think that every one of their palettes are absolutely amazing. But if I could recommend one palette to you, that's too, sweetie. If I can recommend one palette to you, I actually would recommend the original, the Serenity palette. This is the one that started everything. This is the one that almost broke the internet, that they restocked so many times, and it is back in stock. And this is an incredible palette. It is beautiful. It is pigmented. Just me looking at this palette makes me want to break this out and play with it again. Such a stunning palette. I cannot recommend this one enough, and definitely even to this day, if you have never tried Cosmic Beauty, start with this one. It is just stunning, and you'll see how this brand got to be as hyped as it is, because this palette is still an incredible palette, and it's still one of my favorite palettes in my collection. And the year that this one was released, I did vote this one the best eyeshadow palette release of that year. I think that says something. This is a holiday themed palette, but don't judge it too harshly for that. DD Signature is actually restocking the Fearless Holiday palette that sold out this season. And this is not just for the Christmas, this is the entire holiday season. Fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas all in one. And quite honestly, the color story is so versatile. The quality is impeccable, and there are so many things you can do with this palette. Again, you can go row by row and just create something beautiful, but you can always just skip in between the rows as well. And I love this palette. I do personally love the palette they came out with after, which is the Drops of Fantasy, I think it's called. It's a very bright rainbow palette, but again, that's a more personal preference. And in case you are not already like dying to get your hand on another rainbow palette or to get some really bright ones, I do recommend this one because I think this is a good way to start. And quite honestly, I'm so excited about DD Signature and about their journey, and I cannot wait to see what they release next. Arttitude Cosmetics has quite a few interesting palettes, but I will say I think the Ink and Roses is the most interesting palette in my personal that they released. This is a very interesting take again on a neutral palette. This is almost like berries and mauves and cool tones with a little bit of cool toned green, and I have had such a fun time with this palette. I really do enjoy it. And again, if you're trying out Arttitude Cosmetics for the first time, I think the quality is beautiful. I think the color story works together really good. And I think the shimmers offer a really wide variety of different formulas, but they just really work together. And like this one would work here and here. Like all of these shadows just work together, where it's not sometimes with palettes, I'm like, yeah, this is great, but this shimmer only works with these mattes. Otherwise, it would look like the undertones don't go together, or this matte can only be blended out with this matte. But here, I feel like the whole color story just really works together, and nothing is out of place, and everything just flows together. And I think it is a beautiful palette. Gloss Gods is a Swedish indie brand, and they have released a lot of really fun and interesting palettes. They are staying very true to more colorful palettes, colorful and bright makeup overall, and they released the Dancing Lights a while ago, and I think this is their best palette yet, and that's why I actually want to recommend it. I think the Gloss Gods has for a really long time have amazing shimmers, amazing special formulas, and they usually put a lot of different formulas in their palettes. You can see here even there are some multi-chromes, there are some toppers, there are some really sparkly, beautiful shades in here. Their mattes have been sometimes good, sometimes meh, and every now and then there's been a couple that are like, wow, this is amazing. But with this palette, I really think the mattes are great. And this is why I would recommend this palette, because here I'm like, no, I actually think this palette is altogether great. This is not a good but. There's no but. It's just a great palette, and I think they did a great job with it. And if you've been wanting to try Gloss Gods, I would say try this one. It is a little bit on the colorful side though. I will say they do have some more neutral palettes as well, which is neutral palettes with some like interesting multi-chromes in there. With those though, I will say not all mattes are great, but with this one, I do really love the mattes. I feel like Glam Light has so many different palettes, but when I went in and looked at their website, there's actually seems to be quite a few palettes that have either sold out and not been restocked, or that has been discontinued. But actually, one of my favorite palettes from Glam Light is still in stock. It is on sale, and I do think you might be able to use a code on top of that. I don't know. Don't take my word for it, but you can always try. And if you're gonna get just one palette from Glam Light, I do think you should get one that has their amazing quality, which is the Rick and Morty. Not only is this a really fun, this is a bright, fun, colorful palette, but this is the great Glam Light formula. Love the color story, love the combinations, love how this one is laid out. I love the shimmers, I love the gradient. I just think they did an absolutely amazing job with this one. And I would say the same quality, the same vein of quality is also the Garfield palette and the Betty Boop palette. Those three are my favorite palettes from Glam Light, but those have a little bit more of a limited color story. They're very warm leaning. I mean, the Betty Boop palette is just reds and pinks, which is beautiful, but with this one you get even more options, and I can't deny this is just stunning. I love this palette. So if you were wanting to try Glam Light, I still think that this one holds true. It's one of their best sellers for a good reason, and I definitely still recommend it. Okay, let's get into the last palette, and this is gonna be Fantasy Cosmetica. Fantasy Cosmetica was one of those brands where I thought their shimmers, again, as with some of these brands, I told you, I'm a matte girly, and it is harder to make great mattes than it is to make great shimmers. As someone who works with makeup myself, I do own my own indie brand. My brand is called Singe Beauty. I only have 2 eyeshadow palettes at this point, so there's no point in me talking about like the best of those because there's 2 to choose from. But I do know how hard it is to make makeup, and I will say it is harder to make a good matte than it is to make a good shimmer. And Fantasy Cosmetica for a while were having, again, just like Gloss God, sometimes their mattes were good. Every now and then they had a matte in there that was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then some of the times, unfortunately, they were a little meh. But then there was a change, and I think the change honestly came with Cradled in Ice. That's when I was like, wait a dang minute, these mattes are incredible. And since then, the brand has delivered palettes with incredible shimmers and incredible mattes. And my best palette, according to me, the palette that I ranked as #1 palette released in 2024 was the Harvest of Souls. And this is the Fantasy Cosmetica palette that I would recommend. This is still available on their website. It is an incredible palette with an incredible color story. This is a unique color story that is grungy, but with a couple of pops of brights. Again, everything just works together. Light shades, dark shades, bright shades, murky shades, warm tones, cool tones. The shimmers are incredible, and everything just goes together. And I'm so impressed with this palette, and it makes me happy just to look at it. And if you were ordering from Fantasy Cosmetica, I still think that this is the palette to start with. If you want to start with any of the smaller palettes, I would say go with some of the ones that are the newer releases. I love the Monk palette. That is my favorite. If you love warm tones like me, the Monk palette is just the bee's knees, quite honestly. But I still think that this one is a great one to start with because it's beautiful. As I'm filming this, it is on sale, but I think that there was just like a seasonal sale that they were doing right now. But usually when Fantasy Cosmetica has a sale, you can stack a code on top of it. I hope this video was somewhat helpful, somewhat entertaining. If you ever wanted to see like what are my actual favorite palettes, like if I could only keep myself one palette from each brand, let me know. Maybe I could film something like that. I don't know how long ago I know I have done something like that on my channel. I just don't know how long ago that was. But let me know if you were interested in seeing something like that as well. If you want to see more about these palettes, everything is going to be down in the description box. If you love seeing more makeup products on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. I do have videos quite often here on my channel. I hope you're having an amazing, amazing day, and I will see you soon in a new video.